AI Somnium Files Nirvana Initiative was first revealed in June of 2021. I find the first AI Somnium Files to be among one of the best mystery video games I've ever played, so I was rather excited by this announcement. The short teaser showed that fan favorite Mizuki would be in the leading role this time around. SpikeChunsoft would go on to reveal more details as time went on, such as the expanded cast and the fact that there would be two main characters, among other odd ends. I was already sold from the beginning though, so I did my best to go in knowing as little as possible. So let's take a look to see if the Nirvana Initiative was able to deliver on the kind of wild experience that I was hoping for. In a broad sense, it could be said that Nirvana Initiative has two main kinds of gameplay sections. One being the investigation segments, where you're going from place to place, talking to people and examining environments for clues, and the other being the Somnium exploration, where the player traverses the dreams of key characters to gather info that they can't or won't disclose under normal circumstances. There are also the occasional quick-time event action sequences. In general, I think the gameplay is a healthy improvement from the first game. As far as the investigation sections go, one of the major additions that they had to break up any of the potential monotony was the VR reenactments. These segments involve you examining a given crime scene and retracing the steps of the culprit to figure out how it ended up in the state it's in, usually leading to an aha moment at the end to point you where to go next. Having a larger variety of environments to look around in also helped prevent the general investigation segments from getting stale. The Somniums also received a pretty major improvement as well. In the first game, a lot of the time, the wacky dream logic felt like it led to a lot of trial and error, where I would just be picking the options with the lower time penalties in hopes that they would be the correct answer. Nirvana Initiative does a better job at establishing the internal logic of any given Somnium. As you examine the things around, you are given what are called keys, which essentially uncover hints as to what the rules of the Somnium are. I feel like this was a good compromise. The Somniums still maintain their surreal dreamlike nature, while being substantially less tedious to traverse once you figure out what the rules are. The story of Nirvana Initiative centers around solving what is called the half-body serial killings. Much like the victims of this case, the story is split into two separate sections. The past, which is just a few months after the end of the first game. This is the part of the story that follows Kirito Ryuki, a rookie investigator at Abyss, and his initial investigation of the half-body killings. The other part of the game takes place 6 years later and follows Mizuki, a returning favorite from the first game, as she investigates the case after the second half of the first victim is found. I won't go into any more specifics, but I do think that the game did a good job at upping the ante from the first game, and managed to avoid repeating any of the same tricks and twists that were present the first time around. The cast of this game is a delight. Returning favorites like the previously mentioned Mizuki, Aiba, and Boss are all present, and the new characters such as Ryuki, Kizuna, and Komeiji are all great as well. The way the game handles the two leading characters is done pretty well. Ryuki, for the most part, is pretty straightforward. He's a justice-seeking, moral compass kind of character. He does have his share of quirks that keep him from falling on the more bland end of this kind of archetype, and Mizuki is as hot-blooded and snarky as she was in the first game, if not more so since she seems to have gotten more confident with age. Their respective dynamics with their AI companions are also unique from each other, with Mizuki and Aiba feeling more like bantering school friends, and Ryuki and Tama seeming like an odd married couple at many points in the game. So while it doesn't affect the gameplay in any way, the two of them having such different personalities and dynamics with the people they interact with makes for a refreshing change of pace when the perspective changes. The way the story handles the rest of the cast is also pretty graceful. I think that the game does a good job at making each member of the core cast seem like they're relevant to the story throughout the whole game. The first game had this issue where once you started going down the route that focused on a specific character, the other cast members just seemed to kind of fade into the background. I don't feel like that's the case in Nirvana Initiative. The characters' moments to shine get to come at a more consistent rate and in a way that feels way more cohesive. Nirvana Initiative nails the futuristic noir setting it shoots for. It does a really good job at blending the surreal with other aspects that are played relatively straight. For example, seeing characters that seem normal, like Kizuna or Ryuki, interact with characters like Komeiji or Gen doesn't seem all that bizarre. The music is a major contributor to how the game curates its atmosphere as well. I didn't think that they were going to be able to match the title theme from the first game, but as it turns out, the main theme of Nirvana Initiative is just as good, if not better. On top of that, they have songs for seemingly every occasion. The music for the action sequences is an outright jam. The theme that plays at Tokiko's office does a great job at getting the point of her character across, and some of the Somnium themes are going to be sticking with me for a long time. As with the first game, the voice acting in Nirvana Initiative is top-notch. Obviously, returning characters like Mizuki, Aiba, and Boss all have equally great performances backing them up. But I did think there were two standouts in this game to me, the first being Brent Mukai as Andy's Komeiji, who did a great job at portraying him as a very desperate, down-on-his-luck guy who's just trying to do his best. You can really feel the internal conflict that Komeiji grapples with when his part of the story is in center focus. The second standout to me was Laura Post's chilling performance as Tokiko Shigure. For a character who's stoic most of the time you interact with her, I feel like there was a great job done at portraying the madness that lurks underneath of the surface. AI The Somnium Files Nirvana Initiative is a must-play for anyone who is a fan of narrative mystery games. It is one of the best the genre has to offer. The gameplay meshes better this time around, the charming cast makes the world fun to interact with, and the exceptional mystery writing had a number of twists and turns that kept me engaged the entire time I was playing.